The basis for accountability goes like this. My feelings are the emotional consequences of the mental choices that I make. Victims would contend that their feelings are the emotional consequences of what happens out there. And I submit to you that our feelings are the emotional consequences of the mental choices that we make. And armed with that belief, we don't get to a place of apathy where we don't care what happens. But I submit to you, what we do is we upgrade our rules to preferences. I would still prefer that the people ahead of me in the express line have 10 or fewer items. You with me? But I'm starting to awaken to the fact that turning the emotional condition of my day for a few minutes over to people and situations that really are pretty much irrelevant doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That my anger is not created by what they've got in their basket. It's created by the thoughts that I have about it. And so we upgrade our rules to preferences. And then we make accountable choices when our preferences aren't met. I said when our rules are violated, because they are. And just because we've become more accountable doesn't mean that our preferences will always be met. They will not. But unlike our victim friends who are blaming and wallowing and quitting, when we encounter the setbacks that are inevitable in life, we make accountable choices. And here it is, plain and simple. In real Texas English, we get over it and get on with it. I learned that from my dad. My parents grew up on farms in East Texas during the Depression. Lived through the Depression. My dad and his brother and my mother's brothers, everybody went off to World War II and they saved the world. And then they came back and they built a life for us that was better than anything they'd ever seen. And they weren't given much to victimhood. And I can remember coming home from practice or school and whining about something to my dad, and his response was almost always the same verbatim. Boy! I think I was 16 before Mom finally told him my name wasn't Boy. Boy! Get over it and get on with it. And being a boy, it went in one ear and out the other. But in the years since Dad's been gone, and in the years since I've been writing and speaking so much about accountability that people are interested in, I've come to recognize the wisdom in that. Get over it. Acknowledge the setback. Organizationally, in the tax department, in your families, whatever your churches, your school, whatever group that you're functioning in, when you encounter a setback, acknowledge the setback. And I would go further and suggest do some appropriate rational grieving. I don't want anybody on my team who doesn't care about a setback, do you? But by the same token, I don't want anybody on my team who's devastated every time we encounter a setback. So get over it. Acknowledge the setback. And do some appropriate rational grieving. And then get on with it. Decide what you can do and do it. And here's where those of you who facilitate this search for better ways come into play. Sometimes we can recover what was lost, can't we? But sometimes, would you agree, we can't. And in those instances, what can we do? I submit to you, we can learn, can't we? We can learn from the setback.